with this. Let's speak to the former Prime Minister of Ukraine, Yaценюk, who joins me live on the programme, and we are very grateful for your time. Your reaction, first of all, to these reports, to the number of casualties we've seen.
Well, that's another despicable, horrendous, and just terrible crime committed personally by war criminal Vladimir Putin, a dictator who has no limits at all. I do understand that the West is always concerned about the red lines, but war criminal Vladimir Putin, he already crossed all death lines, not red lines. So the death toll is rising, as the Ukrainian officials already reported. So the number of those who had been killed by Russians is around 41, but it's definitely on the rise escalator. And those who had been injured is 180. And let me remind you that this is the college. Yeah, that's true. That's a military college, but full of cadets, of young Ukrainians who decided to fight for their country, who decided to serve in the Ukrainian military, those men and women in the uniform who wants their country to be free. So that's a despicable act, and I urge our Western partners to do everything that is needed. That's not a trickle-down approach to supply Ukraine with ammunition and necessary military equipment. We need a full flood approach to give everything that is needed for the Ukrainian military to stop this dictator, to stop this massacre that is committed personally by Putin and his bloody military.
I'll come to that final point and we'll talk about that more in a moment or two. But the First Lady has been talking, and even the figures that you were using, she's updated those. So exactly as you were intimating, the figures are rising and perhaps will rise even further because we know that there are people trapped under the rubble. But in terms of what was hit, tell me a little more about that, if you can.
Well, that's a communication military college. Okay. Once again, those who had been killed, these are young Ukrainians. That's cadets. The area is Poltava. Poltava is not directly on the front line. It's around 100 miles far from the front line. But the thing is that Russians used ballistic missiles with the travel speed of around 60 miles per minute. So the time between the air raid siren and when these bloody missiles landed was less than a minute. So it actually inflicted a huge damage. So the cost is just unprecedented. And I personally, we mourn for those who are dead, and we pray for those who are injured to heal.
We spoke a week or so ago when President Zelensky had again urged the West, in terms of those weapons, the long-range weapons that the West has supplied, to be able to use that to hit targets inside of Russia, a change of the rules. Does what has happened today again add more fuel for that basic demand that we hear repeatedly from Ukraine?
Correct. That's another wake-up call. That's another wake-up call for the global community. So we urgently need to change the rule of engagement. Ukraine has to get the right to hit legitimate military targets all over Russia. So instead of killing the error, we need to undermine and we need to destroy the archer. And that's the most important issue. And I do believe that the world has to realize this. I mean, the free world. We are dragging, our partners are dragging their feet. But the price is unprecedented. We are losing the lives of innocent Ukrainians, of Ukrainian youth, of the precious Ukrainian generation.
Let me ask you a final thought, because we had that incursion a month or so ago into the Kursk area of Russia. That was deemed to be a success. The hope from Ukraine was it would drag Russian forces away from the Eastern Front, where the fighting is still so difficult. That doesn't appear to have been what has happened. It is really still a very tough battle there on the Eastern Front line, isn't it?
Well, with all respect, sir, it's a war. Whether the decision to make an incursion into Russia was the right. As of now, I believe it's completely the right decision. It's a gamble. We're going to see what's going to be the end game. But the thing is that, look, an entire world realized that Ukrainian military can make an incursion into Russia, that Russia is not invincible. So the thing is that Ukrainians are right now outmanned and outgunned. If we get more ammo, if we get more weaponry, if we get the permission to hit the legitimate Russian targets inside the Russia, we will prevail in this war. So that's the recipe. That's the silver bullet.
Well, former Prime Minister, thank you so much for taking time to speak to us here on BBC News.